What happened on Capitol Hill is the 9/11 moment for social media. Those are the words from an EU Commissioner, Thierry Breton, who's been pushing forward social media regulation right here on the block. We have seen so many significant moments over the last couple of days. Twitter permanently banning the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Facebook and Instagram at least partially or temporarily suspending him until there's a peaceful transition of power. But we've also seen platforms like Amazon, Google, they are starving the platform known as Parlor of access to their platforms. Parlor known very prominently for sharing right-wing views, people on there sharing quite right-wing views or views that would be shared by the US President. But all of this has a really huge significance. And to dive deeper into this, I'm joined by Dr. Jen Goldbeck, the director of the Social Intelligence Lab at the University of Maryland. Jen, thanks very much for joining us. There's so much to talk about here. I want to start off with Parlor. So can you tell us a little bit about what Parlor is and what the significance is of Parlor being starved of kind of anywhere to operate, but also the significance of President Trump to the bans here with regards to social media regulation?
Absolutely. So Parlor is basically a Twitter alternative. It looks and feels a lot like Twitter. And it was set up basically to take in the people who felt like they couldn't share their views on Twitter because it violated their terms of service against threats, harassment, calls to violence, and so on. So as you said, it was a place where a lot of the right wing congregated and where a lot of the plans for the insurrection that we saw on the 6th took place. It was very clear leading up to that event that they were planning to storm the Capitol. There were plans discussed there about who they wanted to kill, who they wanted to take hostage. So it's a place where there was a lot of violence. Now Apple has taken them out of the Apple Store. Google has taken them off Android. And as you said, Amazon has deplatformed them. So it's no longer operating as of this morning. That's driving Trump supporters to even deeper places on the internet to try to find a place to discuss. At the same time, Trump hasn't shown up on Parler, and he seems to be completely deplatformed from any place on social media. And so his followers don't really have an online place to go to look for guidance from him.
And you've been monitoring these kind of spaces. When it comes to tackling this kind of online rhetoric, violent online rhetoric, briefly kind of tell me, what can we expect when it comes to, the platforms are taking serious action now, but is this going to have a big, profound effect on this kind of violent rhetoric online?
So it is driving it to deeper places. And on one hand, that doesn't eliminate it. On the other hand, it makes it harder to find. It's not going to be on Facebook and Twitter and these places where, frankly, a lot of people spend their social media time. That, I think, is a good thing. Most of the people who showed up at the protests on the 6th believed in a lot of these very violent and nonsensical conspiracy theories. And that's driving a lot of their action. So making it harder to find that, harder to win kind of reasonable people over into these really irrational conspiracy theories is something that I think is going to be helpful in tamping down violence going forward. It still remains to be seen what'll happen in the next week or so, but I think overall, enforcing those policies to keep that kind of language off the major platforms is a good move.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jen Goldbeck, Director of the Social Intelligence Lab at the University of Maryland. We'll certainly be keeping tabs of Dr. Goldbeck's work here when it comes to what exactly is next. This is definitely a big watershed moment, but what's next, we'll be waiting to see.